Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Cuz You Don't Know Football. I just want y'all to know we back at it, talking to y'all about week 15, week 16. We got a pretty special segment. This is usually where me and the mooch start arguing. I just want y'all to know. This is usually where we stop seeing eye to eye. We're usually all good until about this point. Then it's like, all right, I don't like you right now. But that's fine. That's all good. But once again, Mooch, thank you for coming back on, man. We always happy to have you, man. Thank you for always taking your time for us.
I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Okay. Look, man, we're gonna jump right into it. We're gonna jump right into it. You saw that first game, the game of the week. I want you, I want you to know anytime my Colts is playing, that's the game of the week. Okay, don't you say nothing about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Colts. It's funny because the Colts and the Steelers are kind of in a very similar spot. They have similar records, obviously, but they seem to both have ways of winning when it doesn't seem like they should be winning. So the Colts felt like they just kind of pulled out that game, and mostly because Mitchell Trubisky is just not a good quarterback.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the end of it. I mean, the Steelers have a good defense, but Gardner Minshew, with the exception of hanging Michael Pittman out to dry in that one pass where Pittman got hurt, had a pretty good game, and they pulled out a victory.
So can I say this? And I'm actually glad you said it because I wasn't even going to think about it. So they suspended him for the rest of the year for that hit.
Yeah, the safety. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think he should have been suspended for the rest of the year. I think we always got to get to a point with football where we got to have a conversation about what football is, and at what point do you say I can't allow you to make this catch? And I think if even if you say that is beyond that point, to say that it was something where he was like, "Oh, I'm trying to like end his life or something," is I think that was a bit much for what where they were. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, as I understand it, that safety, I forgot his name, but he that was not his first offense. And so there was, once that happens, you're not given the benefit of the doubt. Now suspending him for the rest of the season seemed to be a bit much given the play and how it developed. But that seems to be the case for all of these not roughing the passer, unnecessary roughness
Mhm.
calls where the defensive back hits the receiver. Um, that receiver, regardless of him going down for the ball or jumping up for the ball, and where the defender is, where his helmet is, when all of that happens, when the contact happens, and what the purpose of the contact was. It's a zero sum game, and the defender is going to be called for the unnecessary roughness. And again, simply because it wasn't his first offense, they didn't give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But as a defensive player, maybe just that mentality that got let me baked in me, but I think the same thing. So here we go. But here's the stats for the game. Gardner Minshew was 18 and 28 for 215 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. Uh, we actually got led by actually I never even heard of this guy before. Trey Sermon, uh, or Sermon. He led us in rushing with 17 carries for 88 yards.
Yeah, I
Um,
know who he is. He went to Ohio State. The 49ers drafted him. He didn't play at all there though. Then the Eagles had him for a little bit. He didn't really play for the Eagles, and I didn't know he was with the Colts. But yeah, he was always like a tough runner, like just like he was in between the tackle, tough guy. Not a lot of wiggle to him, but good player.
all right, well, Michael Pittman, he led us with receiving with 4 receptions for 78 yards. He may not play this week. I will say that about that hit. He may not play this week. But then we had we had DJ Montgomery. He had a touchdown. Mo Cox had a touchdown, and Zach Moss had a touchdown. And on Steelers, Mitch Trubisky was 16 of 23 for 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. And then not much on the ground. Not even want to mention that. And not much in the air, but Deontay Johnson did lead them in receiving with 62 yards and a touchdown. So I'll say this about this game, and then you can finish up your thoughts. I thought this was an elimination game for the loser of this game. So when I was looking at this year, I said ever since we've gone to 17 games in a season, I was curious, like, what's that number to basically say, if you hear you probably won't make the playoffs more times than not, and that answer used to be 9-7. More times than not, if you were 9-7, that's missing in playoffs. And I kind of think 10-7 is still like that's where you're at, but with the division losses and stuff like that, I looked at that and the seeding and the teams that were there. I said this is probably an elimination game, and for me, this pretty much eliminates the Steelers from playoff contention, in my opinion. But I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, I mean they're not eliminated; they still have a chance, but I mean I don't see it with them. There's just not a lot of production coming out of the quarterback position for them. Even when their starter Pickett is healthy, he's not. He basically he can shoot. He can throw deep for twice a game, and maybe get a touchdown out of that. But he's not. He's just okay. He's like sort of like replacement level quarterback. And so I just don't see it. I don't see where they have enough juice on offense to score enough to keep up with some of the better teams.
Yeah, so that's it. But I am curious. I am mad that I'm not as mad as I guess last week because the Bengals won this week too. But I was very mad that just the week before I was like, oh, the Colts are going to be in the playoffs. Then we lose to the Bengals with no Joe Burrow. So it looks like we still going, do our thing. You know what I mean? But we'll keep you updated on that. So then we move on to the next game. Buffalo smoked Dallas 31-10. Let's look at some stats. Let's look at the Cowboys stats. Let's look up their stats first. You got Dak. He was 21-34 for 134 yards. No touchdowns and a pick. Tony Pollard led them with 52 yards rushing. And CeeDee Lamb actually had a rushing touchdown. And then he led them in receiving with 7 receptions for 53 yards. And that was basically the Cowboys' offense for the day. And then, it's not that Josh Allen was any better. I don't know if you've seen his stats, but I'm about to say it. He was 7-15 for 94 yards and a touchdown. The only other time I've seen stat lines like that was when we had Carson Wentz. And that was actually the year you laughed at me because I was happy we had Carson Wentz. And I was like, and he kept doing that. And I couldn't believe it. That
was the year that all you had to do was beat the worst team in the NFL, Jaguars, in the last game of the season, and y'all lost. Got blown out.
He threw for like 75 yards.
Yeah.
What did you go away? I said, I don't even want to hear from you no more. Okay. I had an argument about you. I took your side, so whatever. James Cook, actually, he had 25 carries, 179 yards and a touchdown. Josh Allen had a rushing touchdown. Latavius Murray, he had 1 rushing touchdown. Stephon Diggs had 4 receptions for 48 yards, and James Cook had the receiving touchdown. Unpack this game for us.
Yeah, I think the story of the game was Cook, the running back. Ever since Ken Dorsey was fired and Joe Brady took over as offensive coordinator, Brady has made featuring Cook a priority for that offense, and he's paid dividends for them. Obviously had a lot of production in the game, both in terms of yardage and scoring. Allowed for Josh Allen to not have to throw a lot, or at least have a lot of production in passing and still be successful and win the game in pretty much a blowout. I think the weather had something to do with this game. To be honest, I don't know if it's such a blowout. If the game is just 40 degrees but sunny and a light wind versus the rain that occurred. I think Dak would have probably had a better game. But I still think Buffalo overall, they're really playing well. They have a lot of confidence in themselves right now, and I think they were sort of a buzzsaw that the Cowboys ran into. And that happens to good teams often. So I don't think the Cowboys should feel bad about it. But it did mean that it kind of set them back for the NFC East supremacy, especially going into having to play in Miami next week.
Yeah. So, Buffalo is such an enigma. Like, And when Buffalo plays the best that they can play, every team, then nobody really wants to play them. The one thing I like about this, as opposed to, or let me say this, what I like about this Buffalo team as opposed to like the last 3 years, they, I think this year they looked at where they were and they said we got to get more versatile than Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and hope that something else opens up, which pretty much was what was going on. So the fact that they can run the ball and the fact that they're winning games with Stephon Diggs not having big receiving yards, I think makes them a very dangerous team come playoff time. Because if I'm Buffalo, I'm saying I hope that you look at Stephon Diggs and say, that's not what I got to take away. That would be the biggest win for me. So that's what I think about that. I have to wait and see on Dallas. I have feelings and about what I feel about Dallas. I think even before this game, I felt like people were saying they were better than they kind of actually are. I think they were saying Dak was better than he actually is. But with that said, I would like to reserve what I feel about the noise that they can make in the playoffs. I want to see them a couple more times. This game wasn't a good enough game for me to look at them and say, all right, this was an evaluation point for me. I already knew that they could play bad.
Yeah, I mean, for Buffalo, they're definitely a team that they're that team that nobody wants to play in the playoffs, as you said, because they have Josh Allen, they have Diggs, and now they have a rushing attack with Cook, where he can both be a threat running the ball and receiving the ball. And their defense is actually coming together in ways I didn't expect them to. They're just playing better. They're playing better as a team without a lot of the top end talent that maybe their names would suggest. I mean, Tre'Davious White is out for the season. A few of their defensive linemen are either hurt or just not playing well, and but they're still being successful over the last few weeks. So yeah, you definitely want to avoid them in the playoffs if possible, especially as their confidence is growing. As far as Dallas, I mean, I think Dak Prescott is a really good quarterback. I think for whatever reason, there's a bit of hate against him in conversations around the league. He's there's Patrick Mahomes, who's I think is the best quarterback, but then there's just a group of quarterbacks, there's like 5 or 6 of them who are basically the same level of quarterback, even if they have different strengths and weaknesses. And I think Dak is part of that group. They are going to have to. I think they have to win in Miami next week in order to win the NFC East and have a shot at the 2 seed and have home field throughout unless they play San Francisco. So they'll have to do that, but it's time will tell in that case.
Ooh, that's good. That's good commentary. That is good commentary right there. I don't tell you that often. No. Okay, we're going to move on to the next game. Another whooping that happened. Ravens whooped up on the Jaguars, 23-7. All right, we're going to start. Trevor Lawrence was 25 43 for 264 yards and 1 touchdown with no picks. He also led them in rushing with 41 yards. James Agnew led them in receiving with 2 receptions for 70 yards and 1 touchdown. And actually, one was like a big play. I actually remember that. Basically them on offense. And Lamar Jackson, he was 14-24 for 171 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. And then he led them in rushing with 12 receptions for 97 or 12 receptions, 12 carries for 97 yards. And Gus Edwards actually had they killed them on the ground. Keaton Mitchell, he had 9 carries for 73 yards. Gus Edwards had 16 carries for 58 yards and 1 touchdown. And Isaiah Likely, he had 5 receptions for 70 yards and a touchdown. And that's basically the top of that. So what did you think about this game and these teams right now?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much expected. I mean, I think Baltimore's just better than Jacksonville. I know I had Jacksonville being better than they are when I was picking teams in the beginning of the season. I had them as finishing as the 1 seed. primarily because of
Yes,
their
you
what
did
I
have
thought
them
was going to be
using
their
that
easy.
Yes, you did say that. Me
I
and
know I said
Daniel talked about that. Me and Daniel
why,
talked about that.
that's why I said it again. I just said what I said. Yeah. Primarily because they of their easy schedule, and I thought they would just eat off of that. They haven't as much as I thought they would. Their offense isn't as explosive as I thought it would be. Their defense, while it's coming around, it hasn't improved much off of what it was last year. And they're putting a lot on Trevor Lawrence, and sometimes he's just just not coming through. Like at the end of the half of that game, they had the ball down on like the Baltimore 5, could have spiked the ball. Instead, decided to try to sneak in a quick play. Trevor Lawrence through an ill-advised out pattern where the receiver got tackled inbounds and the clock ran out. So no points there. He was running at one point with the ball and just fumbled, just dropped the ball and lost it. He's not where I thought he would be. I think he'll be a really good quarterback. He's just not where I thought he would be up to this point. They're still going to. I still think they're going to win the division. They're going to go be in the playoffs, obviously, but they're not what Baltimore is. Has a more complete offense. Obviously, Lamar Jackson. He continues to be very successful, while not having a lot of passing yards. Whether it's just like the threat of him running the ball or him actually running the ball, and his arm talent actually making plays when it matters most. He just keeps coming through. This is the kind of season that you would hope a quarterback who just signed a massive contract to have, where he's successful. The team is winning. He's avoiding injury, and he's just leading the team. One thing to keep in mind with Baltimore going forward is Keaton Mitchell, who's their big play running back, tore his ACL at the end of that game, so he's out for the year. I think that's a bit of a blow for them. They have obviously other running backs. I think they actually just signed Melvin Gordon. I forgot he was even still playing in the NFL.
Did he sign him back? Because he was playing for them, and then they released him.
Yeah, I saw earlier today that he was at least in town for like physical and that kind of stuff. Okay. But yeah, so they have to adjust. They keep losing running backs. Dobbins went earlier this year with a torn Achilles, but they keep trucking along. I think they're going to be the 1 seed going into the playoffs, and are the best team. I think Lamar Jackson should be the MVP front runner, even though I know he's not as far as the betting markets are concerned. But I think he's playing the best, and I think Baltimore is the best. Either them or San Francisco are the two best teams in the NFL, and I think they're the best in the AFC.
Do you know who had those odds of the MVP or who was leading that at all?
After last week?
Yeah, after last week.
I think it's Brock Purdy. Because at one point, I think Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott were tied, and because the Cowboys lost, I think, and San Francisco won, I think Brock Purdy took the lead.
Okay. So for me, this game to me, ironically, put Lamar Jackson in the MVP. Like if I had an MVP vote right now, I would say Lamar Jackson. This is a Lamar Jackson game. This is what you want. This is when I think Baltimore is the most the scariest. I think this is when Lamar Jackson is the scariest. He's not like of course he clearly 400 yards if he felt like it. He's done it before. I don't like it when he's throwing the ball that much. I like it because when he has a certain amount of attempts, Lamar Jackson gets very efficient, and the numbers may not wow you, but the efficiency is like, well, what do you do? And then it opens up the run game for them so much more. To me, this was a Baltimore showcasing. If we play like this, none of y'all really want to play us. Once again, I want to reserve my thought on them in terms of playoffs. I just want to keep an eye on them. But
yeah. I just looked it up. Brock Purdy is minus 225 for MVP. Lamar Jackson is second at plus 600, and Christian McCaffrey is third at plus 700.
Yeah, I don't know how you have two MVP candidates on the same team, but that's the most valuable. I guess we gotta ignore that, but whatever. So yeah, but in terms of Jacksonville, I think Jacksonville's slipping, man. I think this is closer to who you're going to see from them as opposed to what you think that they are. And luckily for them, the end of their schedule sucks. Okay, luckily for them, the end of their schedule sucks because I'm looking at it and I don't know if you recognize it, but the Colts and the Jaguars have the same record. So that means considering that they swept us, that means against the competitive like who we all play together, we're better against all the rest of these teams than Jacksonville actually is. And
Yeah, that math ain't mathing because
that
they
math
swept.
is mathing because they should have
They
a better record.
swept,
They should be listen.
but
No, go back
they
to what you said
swept.
this summer. They should be running away with this division. They should be the number one seed. They should have lost 3 games and somehow they're finding ways to lose. Like in the beginning of this game, Jacksonville actually had they should have had 21 points at the beginning of this game. If we're gonna be honest, they missed 2 field goals and they had a turnover. Jacksonville should have had a big lead and forced Baltimore to figure out how to come back, but they couldn't figure out how to do that. And that's who Jacksonville is. That team. I love Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is not the issue. They just have a lot of pieces on that team that the league expects to be better based off of where they were drafted because they always had high picks based on when they were drafted, the names and things of that nature. But those pieces are not as good as advertised. And I'm not like I understand they swept my Colts. I know that's what you're going to say because I know you. I'm not impressed with that. They should be better than they are.
No, I'm not impressed with that. Okay,
I'm not impressed. They should be who you said in the summer they are. They should be that, and they're not. And me and you both know that too.
Yeah, I said that they're not what I thought they would be. They're about like 2 games below what I thought they would be as far as wins are concerned. For one, I didn't see Houston being as good as they are, and also like I said, Jacksonville is just not as talented, or they're not demonstrating their talent in ways that I thought they would. But they did sweep the Colts, and when it comes down to it, that's when they end up with the same record, then Jacksonville wins.
They going to win a division still, but it's because who they got? Tampa Bay, Tennessee, and somebody else. Like, all right, cool. I got you. I know when to concede. You got it.
That's all I was asking for. That's all I was asking.
I listen. I got you. I understand. Okay, we can move on. So let's talk a little bit about your Eagles real quick. How y'all drop this game to the Seattle Seahawks? Boy, they was reeling. I thought for sure this was going to be a dub.
Yeah, I did too. So the Eagles, their defense got slow and old fast.
For the year, like in the middle of the year.
Like over the course of like 3 weeks, all of a sudden, Bradbury was just slow. That last drive, he was targeted. Like they went after him. Now I'm not sure if the defense, if like the scheme was such that help was on the other side of the defense, or what have you. But the big play to DK Metcalf was against him, and the touchdown catch was against him, against Bradbury. And Slay's already out with having had a minor knee surgery. And then the trade they made for the safety Byard, he's slow, like and he's all so they're all over 30. They're slow. Like Reed Blankenship, he's good, but he's not great, and he's not good enough to cover up the deficiencies across the defensive backfield. They've never invested in the linebacker position. So all of those players are just, has-beens or never were's or just not good players. What's most frustrating to watch them this year is that, they, as a team building mechanism, focused a lot of resources on the defensive line. Like the defensive line was supposed to be where they would win no matter what. And they're just not. They're not getting to the quarterback. They're not. They're like a lot of like Josh Sweat already has played more snaps than he played all of last season. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter Both are playing well, but they're even going back to college. They didn't play full games. They were part of rotations, and that's where the Eagles were always good in playing a rotation of defensive linemen. And that rotation isn't it's not coming through. So my guess is that a lot of the players who they drafted and brought in, where they thought these were like high value players, like drafted Nolan Smith at 30, when a lot of people thought that he was going to be drafted at 10. That maybe he was just supposed to be drafted at 30. He's not bad, but he's not great. So the defense is just old and slow, and there's no fix for that. That's just what it's going to be for the rest of the year. Offense is a bit concerning too, because it seems as though they just do as I explained with Kenny Pickett, like Jalen Hurts is just either throw it deep or it's just not going to be a completion. It might be an interception. And he's not running with the authority that he did last year, whether it's because he's hurt or because he's protecting himself or because he's afraid he's going to fumble. I don't know, but it's just not working out. And so, whereas it looked like this was an actual contender for the Super Bowl, I don't think they're a contender. I think they'll still win the division simply because the Cowboys have harder teams to play than the Eagles do going forward. And if they end up with the same record, the Eagles will win the tiebreaker. But they might win a couple playoff games and get blown out by San Francisco, and that'll just be that.
Actually, I'm not sure if I expected the Eagles to win the division or not, but I expected more of the season to be more of this conversation than it actually was. So I really feel like the Eagles played bigger or played higher than probably I expected, only because and nobody really talks about this. You know what I mean? When after last year, the Eagles lost their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator. That's the culture. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you have your head coach, but as an offensive player, any problems, the adjustments and stuff like that, you're talking to your offensive coordinator. Like defensive player, you're talking to your defensive coordinator, say this is what the problems are, this is how we got to do it. You had to reset not one culture, but two cultures all in the same year. And usually, anytime any good defense, usually if they lose a defensive coordinator, they usually drop off. The Eagles did not drop off for the most part in this year, and the offense did not drop off. You know what I mean? I think this is more just coming back to reality than anything else. So I'm not. Like I said, I didn't put the Eagles in my NFC Championship game anyway, so I didn't expect them to be in the NFC Championship game. But I thought next year for me, I was more scared of the Eagles next year than I was this year, because you got to figure things out. But this game, ironically, it kind of reminded me of like the old Eagles games where it's like, who is that and why does he look so great right now? Y'all made Julian Love look like Ed Reed out there. And I have no idea how he ended up looking so good, but he was amazing. He's doing toe taps, catching it, getting down. I'm like, who is that? So I have no idea why this was his coming out party, but yeah, Julian Love looked amazing in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it was Love. It was Drew Lock, who on the final drive looked like Tom Brady. I mean, it was Drew Lock. Like that dude is not an NFL starter.
He only had 200 yards for the whole game. 80
right, but he had like 8 of them on that last drive.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, look.
Kenneth Walker didn't look like a grown man. I'm gonna be honest with you. Kenneth Walker looked like a grown man in that game.
Yeah, he did. He had a really good game. But I mean, I would expect him to have a good game. It's like Drew Lock. They couldn't stop Drew Lock from beating them down the field. And like that last touchdown pass, like Jackson, what's his name? Smith and Jigba. Like he beat Bradbury bad. Like he has like 4 steps on Bradbury. Like I don't know. I mean, kudos to Seattle. I thought the game said more about where the Eagles are than it said where Seattle is. Because there's no, again, with the defense, there's just no fix for what ails them. And like you say, you made the point about the defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator. It's a fair point. I would just say with the defensive coordinator, like Gannon last year he wasn't good. So like losing him, I didn't think that was I didn't think that was a problem, to be honest. Now, Desai, it appears, was not good either because he got demoted before the game. But and Matt Patricia is replacing him, who is just like we know the stories about Matt Patricia not being a good coach, head coach, coordinator, what have you. There's just no fix for that defense this year. They have to go back to the drawing board, figure out some things after the season, and come back with a rebuild defense. I think it's more of a talent issue than it is a culture or like scheme fit kind of situation. I just think players are old and slow, especially in the defensive backfield.
Okay. I'm sure how we get that together. All right.
We'll
So I want to do the week 16 picks now. And I want to fit it in the next like 8 minutes because I want to save time for the last segment.
Okay.
So now we wrapped up week 15. Let's get into week 16 and let's do the picks of the games that I think best games this for week 16. So Rams Saints, who you got?
I got the Rams. I think it's a pretty easy pick. The Saints are not good. It's in LA, and the Saints are actually like fighting each other on the sidelines. So I don't think I don't look at the win last week against the Giants as meaning anything. Derek Carr is bad. Their offense is bad. Their defense is old. Rams all day.
Glad you said that because I'm rolling with the Saints. I think this. Yeah. I don't think the Rams are that team. I think they're a playoff team. I don't think they're that team, and I think they're ripe for a good loss coming their way that they didn't really see coming. I think this. I think this is that game, and it might even still put them in first place in the NFC South for some strange reason, but that just might be the worst division of all time. But yeah, I'm rolling with the Saints on that one. Let's go Vikings versus Lions.
I'm gonna go to the Lions. It's in Detroit. Minnesota's defense has played very well relative to what their talent is. The defensive coordinators called masterful schemes over the course of the season. I just don't think they have it in terms of offensive production. I think it's Nick Mullins who's going to start at quarterback. You can't lose Nick Mullins at home, point blank, and expect to be a good team. So I'm going to Lions.
I was going to say something else, but that actually might be better than what I was going to say. I was going to say, you said it. You hit it on the head when you said playing better. That defense in terms of talent is not the only thing playing better than ironically that offense again is playing above. I still see them slipping out of the playoffs. And yeah, but you cannot lose to Nick Mullins if you Detroit. That would be terrible. All right, cool. We're gonna go Texans at Browns. Now, unfortunately for this game, Texans do have a lot of injuries. I don't even know if CJ Stroud is playing this week. I think he is. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm making this pick based on CJ Stroud playing. And actually the game is in Houston. And I'm going with the Texans. A lot of what has allowed for Joe Flacco to be surprisingly good has been along the offensive line for the Browns, and they're now have a lot of injuries along the offensive line. A few starters are not going to play. A couple of them are out for the season now. So I just don't think. I think at that point it's just Joe Flacco without a good offensive line, which is just not a recipe for success. So I'm going with Houston in a low-scoring close game.
I don't know. The Browns been defying odds already all this year. They on their fourth quarterback. They on their fourth quarterback. Like the argument that San Fran had against the Eagles in the NFC Championship game last year, they no longer can make because the Browns still won games and they have their fourth string quarterback. And you don't even have four strings on the quarterback. So I think they've been defying odds. I don't know how they've been pulling all this out, but they've looked good. It didn't even look like surprising or they're playing up. They just look like they're playing their game. And I kind of think coming against Houston, who loses both of their top two wide receivers. You know what I mean? I think the Browns.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So then we got Dolphins, Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm going with Miami. I just think their overall offensive firepower is will be too much for Dallas. It's in Miami. Um, Tyreek Hill will be back playing. He looked like he was healthy last week, actually. So I think he'll be fine. I think Dak in the offense will look better. But I think this will be a pretty high scoring game, something like 38 to 28, 38, 31, something like that. Miami wins.
Ironically, I kind of think the Cowboys will take this one. So this is the matchup. When I look at the Dolphins, this is kind of the matchup that I think is not in their favor. A defense that can get at them, that their defensive line can get at them, and cornerbacks that can at least contain these fast wide receivers and things of that nature. And I think that has shown throughout the year to bring their points way down. And I do think Dak is a better quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa. And I think anytime that they've played a team where defensively it made them grind it out as opposed to have big plays, and that team has a quarterback that like can be as good if not better than Tua, those have been the losses that they've had this year.
Fair. I mean, also Dallas sucks on the road. All their wins are at home, or like they're like one and whatever on the road. They haven't been good on the road. So if they won, that would be a surprise, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Cool. We're gonna finish off these picks: 49ers versus Ravens.
There's been like 4 games this year that when they happened, they were the apparent game of the season. I mean, the Eagles
Yeah, but
Chiefs
like
was
this looks like the game of the season.
yeah, but for like Eagles Chiefs was supposed to be game of the season. Then Eagles 49ers. There was one other
Eagles,
one.
Dallas.
Then it was Eagles Dallas, and now this one, which actually might be the game of the season, because you're talking about at this point yet another game where 2 quarterbacks who are front runners at the time of the games are MVP front runners. It's in San Francisco. I kind of think Baltimore is going to eke this one out because they'll be able to play ball control. And the threat of Lamar Jackson is just greater than any of the other quarterbacks that San Francisco has played against this year. San Francisco is going to score points. I fully expect that, but I think their defense is going to struggle to contain Lamar Jackson in the offense. I think this is going to be something like a 27-24 victory for Baltimore, where they hold on at the end.
Yeah, like so I'm actually very excited for this game because I think that like if Lamar Jackson has the game that he had just last week, that kind of thing, and efficient, I don't want him to throw for 300. I want him to be efficient, and I want him to control that defense and make them have to figure out how to stop them, which is him dictating to them, and have all these rushing yards. But I think the points are going to come down. I think it's going to be a little bit less than that. I'm looking at like 2017. I don't think points are going to be at a premium here, but that's just my fault. So, of course, throughout the seasons, well, since before the season, we did the way too early playoff predictions. So we've been telling everybody who's going to make the playoffs since like August. You see what I'm saying? We didn't even have any information. We still was telling you about to happen. Okay, so of course we had to revise that a couple of times. So we said we were going to give three in a year, but that was week 8. That was it. So just in terms of what we said in terms of our last playoff standings, we just said the Dolphins and Bills were both going to make the playoffs. We said the Chiefs were going to make the playoffs. We said the Ravens. We said the Browns. We said the Jags. And in the last one, I didn't even, to be honest with you, I didn't even put the Colts in. That's the truth. I didn't expect this. So we put the Eagles and Cowboys in. We put the 49ers in. We put the Lions in. We put Saints and the Bucks. I know you're like you put 2 teams from the NFC South, but I didn't know who else to think. I didn't see the Packers doing what they started to do, and all this kind of stuff. And I thought the Vikings were going to fall out because I didn't think that they were a repeat playoff team like that. So, with that said, we would like to hear yours. Make comments on your playoff predictions.
Sure. So in the AFC, I have Baltimore as the 1 seed, Kansas City as a 2 seed, Jacksonville as a 3 seed, Buffalo as the 4 seed, overtaking Miami, Indianapolis as the 5 seed, Miami as a 6 seed, and Houston as a 7 seed.
So
when we do the NFC?
No. We're gonna stop right there. We're gonna talk about that.
Okay.
All right. So you have. So you said you have the Ravens as the 1 seed. You have the Chiefs as the 2 seed.
Correct.
All right, and then you said you have
Jacksonville
the 3 seed. Okay. Y'all can see this is unscripted because I'm actually looking at it, trying to figure it out myself right now. And then you got who did you say was your 4 seed?
Buffalo's the 4 seed.
Okay, you got Buffalo coming back and winning the division.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down. So week 18, Miami and Buffalo play. It's in Miami, and I have Buffalo winning that game, and that's for the division.
Sheesh. Okay. So that means you got Miami being the 5 seed.
No, I have Indianapolis as a 5 seed.
Tell you what, boy, you've grown on up, boy. I told you. I knew it was gonna happen eventually. I knew it was gonna happen.
Listen. What I did was I ran this through a playoff simulator, and I did it like 3 times, and just running through different scenarios. And this is what I think is the most likely to be the case, and this is how it shook out. Indianapolis as the 5 seed, Miami as the 6 seed, and then Houston as the 7 seed.
Okay. So I think that's a good list. Something tells me Jacksonville. I don't feel like Jacksonville's the top 3 seed. I don't know why. I just don't feel as though they're one of the top 3 seeds. I think they'll probably end up the 4th seed. So I'd probably keep them there. Houston is the only one that I have a problem with, and it really is not because I don't think they had an amazing season. Like, I literally had to come on here and apologize to CJ Stroud because I said he was going to be one of the busts coming out of college. So I came on here live and I apologized. That's hard for me. And so it's just that he don't have none of this. Already wasn't a great roster, right? You know what I mean? This is an overachieving roster, and their top 2 wide receivers are gone. Nico Collins is injured. He just got injured. I think he's going for the rest of the year. And Tank Dell absolutely is done for the rest of the year. And I think at some point when you're overachieving, you can't overachieve and lose your top 2 options. Give me threats. So that's where I have an issue with Houston. Now that you had time to think about that, you still got Houston at that 7 seed?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to Houston or Cleveland, and I just think they play this weekend, and I think Houston's going to win. It's in Houston. Cleveland, like I said, they're going to struggle along their offensive line. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I think Houston's going to pull it out, and yeah, I'm sticking with it.
I kind of still think Cleveland's going to be able to play. Like, I'm even so if they lose, how many games?
You think they're going to make the playoffs even if they lose to Houston this weekend, or do you just think they're going to beat Houston?
So they have 6 losses.
Yeah. No, Houston has 6 losses. Yeah.
Yeah, and Cleveland has 6 losses.
I think Cleveland has 5 losses right now. Actually, let me see.
Yeah, they have 5 losses. Yeah, I think Cleveland's going to be in it. I think Cleveland's going to be in it.
Yeah. So yeah, if Cleveland wins this weekend against Houston, I will agree. But if Houston beats Cleveland, then they'll have the same record, and Houston will have the head-to-head. So the tiebreaker would go to them.
But all right, so the tiebreaker situation in the AFC is so weird. So they would then have the same record as, yes, you're right. They would have the same record, and they would have a tiebreaker over them. But but like the Colts lost to Cleveland, and they would have the same record. So it's not like I don't think it's as cut and dry as they lose, they come out, and you know what
Well,
I mean?
yeah, it would if those three teams finish with the same record, then there would be another tiebreaker that would come into play. But that's like it's hard to predict that. Like it's hard to predict that Cleveland, Houston, and the Colts will all have the same record. But yeah, you're right. Like there would be some other tiebreaker that would come into play.
Yeah. So let's look at Cleveland's schedule. I just want to look at their remaining schedule. So their remaining schedule got the Texans, then they got the Jets and the Bengals. They could do two games actually. Okay, you might be on something. Let's see what happens this weekend. All right, cool. So I guess this is another one of those elimination games. I eliminated the Steelers from when they lost to the Colts. I said that was an elimination game. So you're saying this is really an elimination game.
Pretty much.
I love to see it. Okay. All right, I ain't had to cuss at you yet, so let's see. So let's hear the NFC.
San Francisco as the 1 seed, Philly as a 2 seed, Detroit as a 3 seed, Tampa as the 4 seed, Dallas as the 5 seed, Seattle as a 6 seed, and the Rams as a 7 seed.
So the Rams are the 7 seed. You said the 6 seed is who?
Seahawks.
All right, you said the 5 seed is going to be the Cowboys.
Correct.
And then you got the Bucks as the 4 seed, the Lions as the 3 seed, the Eagles as the 2 seed. I just started to get on that Packers bandwagon. I wish they hadn't lost that game. One of the guests that I have on, Cesar, he was actually the first person to say anything about Jordan Love being like even a good quarterback. Like, and I was like, when he played against Kansas City, I was so impressed with him. Yeah, I think the Packers are going to miss out though. I think they just lost too many games.
Yeah, I mean they have 8 losses already, I believe. They're digging themselves out of a hole. Like the last 2 weeks, they played subpar teams and they lost to them, I believe. And yeah, I think Jordan Love is actually going to be a good quarterback. The team is so young, especially on offense. Like between the quarterback and all of the receivers, like they're all like in their. It's like Jordan Love is. I know it's in his 3rd year, I believe, but it's his 1st year starting, and then the collection of receivers are all in their 1st or 2nd year. So, they got some growing to do. I think they'll be fine going forward, but it's just going to be hard for them to dig themselves out for the rest of this season.
Yeah, so I was just looking. Who do the Eagles have the rest of the year?
Oh, the Eagles, it's easy. It's 2 Giants games and the Cardinals. That's what it comes down to with, I think, with the Cowboys, because the Cowboys have Miami, they have Detroit, and I believe they have Washington at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So like Miami and Detroit are legit.
They're going to lose one of them 2 games.
So if they lose one of those 2 and the Eagles win out, which as bad as they're playing, they should beat the Giants twice and Arizona once. They would have the tiebreaker based on conference record.
Okay. That's valid. Okay, so not that I'm going to say it and it's not going to sound correct. I still think the Saints are going to win NFC South.
These cats are literally fighting themselves each other on the side.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. I just want to make sure you knew that.
It's hard.
Derek Carr is their quarterback. Just so you're aware. Okay.
So
Dennis Allen is their coach.
I still understand what you said. So I would say this week with the Rams, I kind of feel like, is it an elimination game? I think it's as close to an elimination game as it comes. Yes, I think I do think this is an elimination game because the loser of this will have 8 losses, and then I think that pretty much eliminates them.
So, yeah, but they're not playing for the same things though. Like the Cardinals, the Rams are in it for the wild card, like like the below the division winners. There's almost no way that the Saints are going to get into the playoffs if they don't win their division. So they're not
the same record as the Saints have the same record as Seattle and the Rams and the Vikings right now.
Right, but if I mean, okay, you're right. You're right. They could be 8-9 and okay. You're
So,
right on
so,
that.
so I think this week with the Rams is an elimination game. But then they have the Saints, which is again an elimination game if they happen to win this game. And then they have the Falcons, which once again will be an elimination game if they win the last two. So I just got a hunch, and like I said, there's no winners in there. So all like the Bucks are still going to lose. I think they're losing this week. As a matter of fact, they play somebody who I think they're going to lose to like this week.
Yeah, I think they play Jacksonville.
Yeah, they're going to lose. They're going to lose this week. The Falcons. They just lost to Carolina. You know what I mean? The only two teams lost to Carolina, one of them. So I think. Let me rephrase that. If they win this week, I don't think next week becomes because they can just lose games. I don't know. I don't know what Tennessee. I don't know how to say it any differently.
So it's not an elimination game. Yeah, I don't have any faith in any of those NFC South teams to go on the road and beat quality teams. And I think the Rams are a quality team. I mean, they've wildly overplayed their expectations from the beginning of the season. I think their offense is legitimately good. Their defense, they're trying. They're not good. They're not terrible, but they're not good. But I mean, like the Saints are just not. They're not a cohesive team. They don't like each other. Number one, like I said, Derek Carr is their quarterback. Dennis Allen is their coach. I just like there's nothing about them that says this is the team that's going to pull it out when they need it most on the road against a team where like the quarterback is just superior and the wide receivers are just superior to what the Saints have. I just don't see it happening.
Actually, so I was looking at everybody's remaining schedule. So when I looked at Minnesota, so I'm going to retract my original statement. First time because you don't know football history. I'm retracting my statement. This game for the Saints and the Rams is not an elimination game. Okay. Cool. So the Vikings, their remaining schedule is they have Detroit twice and they have the Packers. They're going to lose at least two of those games. So if not all three, but probably all three. But they're going to lose at least two of those games. Okay, so that's them. The Saints that opens up the room for the Saints and the Rams to lose one more game. So it's hard to say with the whole NFC. The NFC, the bottom of the NFC is so difficult. But yes, I agree that Seattle will get in there. Their remaining schedule is 1 second. No. Let's go with haywire. All right, so their remaining schedule is they got the Titans, they got the Steelers, and they have the Cardinals. Yes, so they should win at least two of those games and get in. Okay, so Seattle, I feel good about them coming in. I think the Rams can afford to lose a game. And like I said, I still think the Vikings slip out, which still opens the door for two NFC South teams to make the playoffs. That's crazy.
Well, not if you have both the Rams and Seattle win.
No, because one's got to win the division, and then the other one, like, who's going to?
Yeah, but like if one wins a division, Dallas is going to be the 5 seed, or the Eagles are going to be the 5 seed. If you're saying Seattle's definitely in,
yes,
and you're saying the Rams are in, well, that's 17.
Okay, I forgot about that. You're absolutely right. Okay, cool. So then that's what I'm saying. So I can see Seattle and the Rams still getting in, even if the Rams drop a game. Now the Rams, did the Rams play the Packers? Do the Packers have any tiebreakers against anybody?
They beat the Rams.
They beat the Rams.
Yeah, they beat the Rams
What's
20
the
to 3.
likelihood of Green Bay winning out? So Green Bay, their remaining schedule is the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Bears. They might lose one of those two games. Okay. All right, cool. I don't think Green Bay's gonna win out. So yeah, so I will agree. Um just so I can look at it clearly. I agree the Niners are gonna be the 1 seed. Probably the Eagles are gonna be the 2 seed. Lions being the 3 seed. I disagree. I say the Saints are going to be the 4 seed. Um I got the Vikings, excuse me, the Rams and the Seahawks coming in the 6 and 7 spot.
You didn't say the 5. You got Dallas as a 5?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, Dallas 5 seed. So
all right. So your only difference is you have the Saints as the 4 seed, and I have Tampa as the 4 seed. But you have everything else I have.
and that's really because, well, one, Baker Mayfield is their quarterback, and I don't care what you say about Derek Carr. Baker Mayfield is Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, but he's better than Derek Carr.
No, he's not 1 year in his career was he better than Derek Carr.
This year to start with, he's better than Derek Carr.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely.
Derek Carr is trash. Derek Carr is a bottom half, like a bottom third quarterback.
Are you fed up with me now?
He is not. I'm fed up with him. I'm fed up with people looking at Derek Carr. Like,
Derek Carr sucks.
No, you can win with Derek Carr. You can build a team and win with Derek Carr. Like, no, you can't. You can't. He's not good.
Listen, that's another conversation for another.
Derek Carr, he'll go like 20 for 23 for 97 yards and a pick.
All right, but
like how you complete 20 passes and only have 97 yards?
The Bucs are going to lose the next 2 weeks. I'm telling you that right now. Just mark my words on that one. The Bucs are going to lose the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's Jacksonville this week, and then to Derek Carr and the Saints the week after that. They're going to lose both of them games.
Nah.
Mark my
again. It's Derek Carr quarterback and Dennis Allen as the coach. It's not. That's not conducive to winning.
And they beat them earlier in the year. Hold on, and they already beat them earlier in the year. Oh, they're not sweeping the Saints. Absolutely not. They're not going to sweep the Saints.
Okay, well,
they ain't that team, man. I'm not even worried about. Look how I look right now.
You say it like sweeping the Saints is like a thing. Like it's like you ain't that team. You can't sweep the Saints.
It's not. You're right, but they also under that line of they the Bucs. They under that line of whatever you're saying about the Saints too. Okay, and they not that team. They're not that team. Okay? They're gonna lose the next 2 weeks.
No, I'm more confident that Tampa wins that division than I am about Philly winning the NFC East. Saints are just not good, man. Not that Tampa is good, but Saints are bad. They're pretty bad. And they're fighting each other.
It's not that.
And Derek Carr is a quarterback.
What you're saying, it's that you're using the Bucs as like, okay, they're good right now, or whatever.
No, they're not. They're just not bad.
F is an F, okay? They I don't care if it was a 20 or a 35, okay? It's an F, okay?
As long as you understand that the Saints are the 20F and the Bucs are the 35F, we're good.
All right, I think we would cover everything. See, this is exactly what I'll be saying. See, then we get to this point, and then I'm like, all right, see, I'm about to explain to mom why I cussed at you on the show. And I'm like, sorry, I'm about to come back on here and say sorry. So before I get to that,
you gotta apologize to me. I'm not CJ Stroud. You gotta apologize to me.
Well, I can do that. Okay. First of all, Mooch. You already know, bro. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for always doing this. And I'll say this. When I got you always been a motherfucker that did big shit. You see what I'm saying? You've always been that guy. when I got you to be like, I want to come on this show, I was like, damn, I'm really doing something right here, huh? So I want to thank you and thank you for creating and allowing us to expand on the platform that we had. You know what I mean? So this show was created for people like you to come on here and talk. So with that said, once again, everybody, you can come check us out on Spotify and YouTube for the full episodes. Check out our clips on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're all over the place. We're blowing up. And once again, I want to tell you, unfortunately, this I'm not apologizing to mom about because I'm going to tell you, because you don't know football. Well, thanks again, man. If anything you need to say, you can go ahead and say it. You want to say something.
No, I just I appreciate it. I appreciate the invite. This is a good show. I'm always happy to join and chop it up with you.
All right. And just like Martin said, I'm going to see you when I see you. Peace.